Thank you, Samuel. Good afternoon, everyone. The room is unnecessarily quiet. Can I have one or two people say something? What are we looking at today? Anybody wants to say something? Yes, Ajit Tong. Thank you for volunteering. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I would like to say hi to everyone in the
Thanks.
class today, and I hope your weekend has been good and of course has not yet ended. And I hope also with the other difficulties that we might have encountered with the assignments that we did, maybe if anything that may arise, we still have a way forward to reach to you and then for assistance. So I would just like to say that everyone, I hope you are in good health. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for being the first person to greet everybody and saying hi. Yes, fellow Gista, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. I greet you all. My question is in previous section about CV writing. Is there any need to mention a date when you started writing your CV or cover letter?
So on the CV, you don't put a date, but on your cover letter, you put a date because you're supposed to indicate the application date. So you put a date on your cover letter.
Okay. And one thing I want to say, I want to apologize because I didn't complete my assignment yet because I'm not feeling well. I'm suffering from malaria since that day. And up to now, I'm still not feeling okay. So I promise maybe today or tomorrow, when I feel a little bit well, I will do my assignment if possible and I will submit it.
That's okay. Sorry about your health. I hope you feel better soon.
Thank you.
Welcome. Benson, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome back from the week, and I'm glad that we are meeting again. I'll just have a small clarification on the CV and cover letter plus the video I shared. It does not depict exactly what I am, but I just followed the advert which was there. So yeah, the video does not really depict exactly my career or the path, but it's because of the advert that was advertised. Thank you.
I have a question for you. Don't unmute yourself yet because we'll have
Okay.
a conversation. So when you say the advert doesn't depict who you are, what does that mean?
Okay. I mean it is my career, but the advert I chose was a little bit complex. Does not depict a junior role. It is a more senior role. So I
Mhm.
just tailored my video and the CV in line with the advert. That's what I mean.
That's okay. So when you're tailoring your application and CVs, normally you tailor it to a specific or advert. So that's why we talked about tailoring, because you're
Okay.
not applying generically to everything. So you are simply applying for that specific role. So you may not put everything that is about you on the document. You only put things that are relevant for you to be able to um, get that role. So it's okay if you don't put everything there. It's supposed
Okay.
to be tailored for that specific advert you want to apply for.
It's okay. Thank you.
Right. James Brown, your time.
concern about the advert. Last time I picked an advert which does not qualify my roles or my profession, and now it has continued to be what I'm supposed to drop a CP and a cover letter in relation to that particular advert. In this case, I see that all the points which I cited there, later on, maybe you'll find them. They are not my information because I'm just doing it purposely for educational purpose. Otherwise, I'm not a carpenter in other way. Uh, so I don't know how will you look into that issue. I just form information which will make it relevant, like what is required. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the mistake because you're supposed to pick an advert that aligns with you, with your career, with what you want to do. So if you pick something that doesn't align, you're not supposed to do it for the purpose of the class because the class is just a class and there's so much more that goes beyond here. You're supposed to do this for yourself, right? So if you're picking something and it doesn't help you, it's going to be terrible.
Yeah, I think I failed to get an advert which in line with my profession. That's why I just picked something simple. That's why I just do it like that. I
So
did not get
maybe
an
you should check
yeah.
check check an active advert now that probably aligns with you and what you want to do, and then just tailor now your cover letter and CV in line with that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Uh, maybe I have to withdraw back my committed assignment.
it's fine. That's okay. Okay, great. Thanks everybody. And Amor Mayok. Everybody's sound is very clear. If you're having sound issues, it's probably by from your side. Maybe your network is not very stable. So you can just go off and then log back in again. Okay. So today we're going to be just looking at core values and how that speaks to you as a person. Maybe how many of us have core values or have values that we believe in, that we live by, like everything that we do aligns to those core values? How many of us? Or have we heard about core values? Do we know what it means? Do we um, live by core values, or we just live life as it comes? John A. Noel. Yes, John, your hand's up. Would you like to say something about the question I'm asking? Okay, your hand's down.
Hello.
Yes, John, are you there?
Yes, I was raising for with the issue of having issues assignment
Oh,
by
so if
when
you're if you're if you're if you're doing going backwards on the reflection, you can do that at the end of the session. So we've already started the session, so let's just continue.
all right, thank you.
Okay. So um let's have Tong. I hope you're answering my question. Please go ahead.
Yes, yes, I'm answering your question.
Okay.
Yeah, when we look at the core values, these are the guiding principles that shape how person or organization behave. For
Right.
instance, I might say that I'm an honest person, I respect people, I'm disciplined. These are the values that I cannot change no matter what. Nothing can make me change who I am. So to me, I think these are the core values, and these are the thing that you consider as your right or as your responsibilities. And no matter what happened, you cannot change them for something or for someone. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Benson.
Okay, thank you. Like he put it, some core values, maybe personally I have, could be integrity. Uh, in the society, we have to deal with people integrity and with integrity, and maybe maintain professionalism, and also collaboration. In the modern world, we see that uh, people work in teams, so collaboration is very, very important. So also maybe resilience, yeah. So bouncing back from setbacks when things get tough, of course, you have to keep going and getting things done. Thank you.
Thank you. Fellow Gista, your hand was up. I don't know if you still want to say something. Ajit, let's
Yeah,
have one more person, Ajit, and then we can continue.
yeah. Me personally, I'm very honest, and when it comes to everything that I do, I must make sure that I do things honest way. Uh, I also don't like being intimidated. So if someone tries to intimidate me, I cannot give him the room or her, because that is, for me, no one can cross that. Uh, I do believe we are all equal, but when someone tries to be maybe trying to force you, that thing cannot go well with me. So I work on truth. That's what are some of my core values.
Great. Thank you so much. We can continue and then we take more of some of the discussions later on. Just by sort of emojis, if you can give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen the way it is, or I just need to do the full screen. Nice. Okay, great. Thank you. And then thank you again, everybody, and for the participation. Welcome to today's session. We're going to be looking at one of the most important things in our life, where we get to look at our values as a person. And this is important because our values, just like all of you have put it, is what shapes everything about you, your decisions, your behaviors, your relationship, and even your career path. And today we are going to understand who we are at our core as a person, and then how these values translate into a strong, authentic personal brand. And by the end of today's session, we should be able to um, understand what core values truly are, get to learn how our values shape our brand, and how people get to associate us with some of this brand, and then explore how our values influence our work ethic and also the relationships that we build, and also discover how we communicate our values through our documents, including in interviews and also in our daily life, right? And just like many of us have already put, core values are the fundamental beliefs that guide our decision making, guide our behavior. They act like an inner compass that helps you to understand what feels right, what feels wrong, and what matters most. Your values shape your personal identity. When we talk about personal identity, is who you are, right? And then it also shapes your professional identity. That's how you work, right? Then it also shapes your relationship with people. It also shapes your priorities. So values tend to remain very stable over time because this is something that is important for you. So you don't flex it around or change it, right? Yeah, but they can be refined through experiences, through challenges, through growth. So we get to refine them. But over time they are relatively stable. They don't change a lot, right? So there are a number of values that I've put here. Depending on who you are, you get to choose, like most of you have mentioned. Someone talked about integrity, which means doing the right thing, even if no one is watching you. You simply want to do the right thing all the time. Talk about respect, where you treat other people with dignity. Talk about service, where you get to put others' needs before your own. talk about growth, where you are constantly learning and self-improving yourself. And that's part of what Build Your Best Self does. And then innovation, thinking about creative ways of doing things or finding solutions to problems and all that. Then we also talk about accountability, where you take responsibility for your actions, and then talk about compassion, where you're genuinely caring for other people. And then excellence, where you're striving for high standards in almost everything that you do. So those are some of the core values that are out there. And of course, it goes beyond this, and the list is almost endless. So as a person, you get to define your own core values and what they mean to you. So as we go throughout this session, you will start to identify which of these 3 to 5 values resonate most to you, right? So their core values are basically in 3 different types. We have the core values that we talk about. So when we talk about core values, these are like your non-negotiable values. Now, these principles that define you, that even when you find yourself in very uncomfortable situation, at crossroad situation, under pressure, you do not compromise them. For instance, if you're somebody who is having high integrity and you find yourself in a situation where um, somebody wants you to do something that abuses integrity, maybe you to steal, you have to lie, you have to do something that goes against this principle, regardless of what you may stand to lose. That's what we talked about crossroads. When you, even when you're put under pressure, where somebody's telling you, you either do this or you lose your job, or you do that or you do that, you don't flex, right? Because it's non-negotiable for you. You only work by the book. Anything outside that, you can't bend. So that is your core value. They basically define who you are at the deepest level. That's why we mean a core, because that's your inner person, right? And it's very stable there. And the examples we talked about, integrity, respect, service, faith, and all of those, are examples of very core values. Now, we also have aspirational values. So, aspirational values are values that you admire from somebody and then you want to live by, you get, but you haven't mastered them yet. Let me give you an example. So, if you have like a role model in your life, or a mentor or a coach, right? And you see them living their life so well that there are things that you admire about them. You see them living carrying core values with them. For instance, somebody who is who gives a lot of service to people who need, right? Their value is service. So you admire that core value. You aspire to be like so, like you want to have that kind of core value for yourself as well. But you already don't have it. You already don't have it, but you want to have it, you get. So you go ahead to have that as your aspirational values, meaning you are going to work so hard to be able to get to be like that person because you see yourself being in that person. So it's more like reflecting who you are becoming, not fully who you are now. When you look at the future, you see yourself doing that. You see yourself giving back to people and all that. So that is an aspirational value. Aspirational value are values that you admire in somebody else that plays a key role in your life. Could be a mentor, a role model, could be a coach, could be your parents, because sometimes your parents are your role models. So those are aspirational values. And then we also have accidental values. So accidental values are values that you pick unconsciously from your environment. There are traits or habits that you adopt unintentionally. You don't intend to pick them, but you pick them from the environment that you interact with, from your peers, from the culture, your friend, your workplace, generally all around you. So you get to pick them. Not consciously chosen, they just show up in your behavior because you don't even know like it is happening, right? Then you begin to do it. And they may or may not reflect your true identity, you get, because these are things that show up just because you are interacting in a particular environment. They show up, right? But it doesn't mean that this is your true self, right? It doesn't mean that it is your true self. So sometimes it could mean that, sometimes it doesn't mean that. So because it is basically adopted unintentionally from the environment that we work in, it may not have a true reflection of who we are, right? And examples of some of these accidental values are like competitiveness. So if you find yourself in an environment where there's a lot of competition, where you get to fight for things, right? You find yourself also developing that, right? And then you become very competitive and you see this reflecting in your behavior just unconsciously because you didn't plan for it, but everybody is competing for something. So if you're not competing, you get to lose. So you start competing, you get unconsciously, and then that sows into your value and it becomes a part of the values that you carry. So those are the three different types of values that each and every one of us must have. And a key message for us to note as we go forward is that core values who you are truly deep inside within your core. That's who you are. Aspirational values, who you want to be, because this is something that you're admiring from somebody that you are not yet. And then accidental values are the ones that we pick up from the environment that we interact with. Yes. So core values are very, very important. Yeah. They influence every part of your life. And at a personal level, they provide clarity in decision making. They guide your choices. Should I do this? Should I not do that? So it helps you a lot in making your decisions. It also shapes your relationship and how you treat other people. And they help you stay grounded during challenging time. We talked about when you find yourself in crossroads, what are you supposed to do, right? So when you have core values that define you, you will remain grounded. You will know what to do even if you are in a very tough situation. And then when people get to know that you're somebody who carries your core values with you, it builds respect. It also builds confidence. People get to trust you a lot and get to respect you. And then in your professional life, of course, they influence your work ethic and the choices that you make in terms of your career and all of those. Also, your personal values help you to create some level of consistency and trust with your colleagues, with your clients, with your employers, and be able to build that level of trust that they can be able to trust you with the work that they give you. And then it guides leadership and teamwork behavior. So, because in the professional work, you work a lot with people from different background, cultures, and all that. So, as somebody who is working in a team, your core values will help you a lot in to be able to be in a position where you can work perfectly in a team. For instance, if your core value is respect, you know that for you to be able to work in a team, you must accept that you are different, you come from different backgrounds, and you must respect somebody's opinions and all that. So it will help you to be able to work and remain grounded in teamwork. And then also in a professional life, it strengthened your personal brand and reputation because people will always associate you with these core values. For instance, integrity. If somebody tested you and found out that you have high level of integrity, trust me, it will strengthen your personal brand and also reputation. But if you're somebody who likes taking bribes or kitu kidogo and stuff like that, right? It will damage your reputation as a person, and the same for your professional life. It could damage your career and all that. We've seen a number of people who've lost jobs and who can't be employed, who have been blacklisted, you get, just because they have violated a number of some of these core values. And in the recruitment industry, what most people don't know is that part of the background check or reference check does a lot to do with the core values. So when they send out information to check your behavior and other things from your previous employer or the reference that you've provided, part of the thing they test are the values. What kind of value do this person have? And that forms part of the decisions that will help the recruiter know whether they should give you the job or not, right? So the core values are the foundation of who you are. They guide your actions every day throughout your life. They shape your identity at a personal level and also at a professional level, then also influence how others experience you, right? So here is how we discover our own core values. And why should you discover your own core values? For those of us who feel that we're stuck somewhere, we don't know if we have these core values placed, it's very important for you to discover your own core values. First of all, clarity helps you know what truly matters in your life and in your career, right? It's very simple. And then, in terms of direction, when you discover your core values, it guides your decisions and keeps you focused on priorities, things that are really, really important, right? And then the other one is aligns your actions with who you are in terms of your core. That is authenticity, right? And then consistency, it helps you build trust because people see you stand by what you value, right? That's why you see a lot of these values, even with big brands, organization, and companies, that they are able to even get customers because there is some level of consistency and people get to build trust with these brands because they trust the brand. And then in terms of resilience, your core values also anchors you during challenges and tough times. It keeps you afloat. You know that this is happening to you, but hey, that this is not the end, and you must still remain grounded through your core values and through that challenging time and be able to come out victorious at the end of the day. So, from this, you need to be able to um, understand that it's very important for you to pick out uh, your values. And how you can do that is by reflecting on peak moments. So if you don't know what your core values are already, first sit down and think about moments when you feel the most happiest. How did you react? Or the moments that you're most proud of where you had very key achievements, moments that fulfilled you, right? Then examples of some of these moments could be when you helped somebody, right? How did it make you feel and all that? So reflect on peak moments in your life that can help you know if that feeling is something that is important to you and is something that you want to maintain, right? And then go ahead to examine the frustrations. For instance, when somebody badly pissed you off, you are so angry, you are so disappointed, and all that. So that can also help you determine your core value. For instance, if somebody disappoints you, when you found out they lied to you, then you know that you hate this dishonesty, right? And hating dishonesty may reveal that you're somebody who values integrity because you don't want lies, right? So you can also examine frustrating situations in your life. And if that still doesn't work for you, you can look at your role models. I don't know how many of us are having role models, but you can look at your role model. What values do you admire in your leaders, in your mentors, in your role model, right? And those are some of the examples that can guide you when you are defining your own core values. Now, again, you go further to identify recurring themes. When you're also looking at what you can do, think about how you've been making decisions in your life. Think about the constant patterns that show up in your life choices. What are the things that you do with ease? If if you have to choose, if you have to make a decision, what is it that you always lean back to? How easy is it for you to do something? And in terms of your career, how do you fight for your career? How are you as a person? So reflect on recurring patterns or themes in your life. That can also help you in choosing or discovering your core values. And then narrow your list down into 3 to 4 values that you feel are non-negotiable for you. And we talked about this earlier and agreed that the core values are values that are core to you as a person, and they define who you are at a very personal level. So you get to choose, right? And maybe 3, maybe 5 values that you feel are non negotiable for you. And then those are the values that you're going to work with. I know most people would be like, okay, I have high integrity, uh, maybe I have respect. So when you talk about it like that, y- your values don't come in speeches, right? It comes in your actions, right? So it is for you as a person to know that my values are integrity, respect, and all that, right? Unless you're preparing written materials where you're able to communicate some of these values, right? But as a person, you don't go about telling people, oh, my value is respect, oh, my value is this. It doesn't work like that. It shows up in the things that you do in your everyday life, and people simply get to associate you with that, right? So that's how you live your core values. So you don't put it on your face as in this is my core value, right? But it shows up in your actions, right? So our upbringing shapes some of the values that we have. And in South Sudan, we have a vast community, we have a vast cultures, right? And the same goes to other parts of the world. And we learn of values very early. So at the early stages, our family, the community, the religion, our cultural values, they are the first teachers of some of the values that we have. So some of these values that we have today, we've inherited them from way back. They were input in us by our own upbringing, right? And they have shaped us into who we are today, right? And we inherit some of these beliefs about what is right, what is wrong, right? Inherit you must respect your elders, you must work hard for you to be able to get, you must pray and pray, you must provide service and all that. So some of these beliefs and habits are things that we inherit while growing up, right? And growing up in a home where honesty is constantly emphasized, where your parents keep telling you, okay, you must be honest, don't lie, don't do this, you grow up paying attention to integrity because it becomes a part of who you are. You know that it is wrong, and that is how the culture or your upbringing would shape that value into you. Not because when you're growing as a child, okay, you knew something, no, but because you're growing there, your upbringing somehow makes you to inherit some of these beliefs. When you talk about things like faith, for instance, it's very easy for somebody who grow up in home where religion is very important, that you must show up in church or a mosque or whatever to pray, right? This person will grow up knowing the values of the church, and You can't take that away from them. They believe in it, you get, and that shapes who they are. And that is the role that culture and upbringing plays in shaping our values. Some of us have values that we've already picked from our upbringing and the cultures that we have. And then as we grow, we go to school, we experience new things, we get exposure, and then we start to evaluate some of these things that we've inherited, right? We start to evaluate them. Now, sometimes we find that some values stay very strong, they stay with us, timeless and non negotiable. For instance, faith, family, respect, integrity. No, some of them stay with us because even after experiencing life as we are growing, we feel that these things are very important, right? We feel that they're important. So we can't outgrow them, right? But others may change and expand as we define our own path. Because remember, now you're out there in the world. Maybe you don't even get to see your parent that often, right? So you get to now define some things, right? You get to expand on some of these to define your own path as a person, because now you are experiencing things on your own. You get to know, okay, this is wrong for me, this is not good for me, all that. So as we grow, we get to keep sometimes some of the values, but then there are others that we drop at some point, the others we change, the others that we expand on to define our values. So in I did mention about the South Sudan context earlier, where we talked about cultural values strongly influencing career and personal identity. So when we talk about respect for elders, the importance of community and family reputation, and responsibility community, all of these have a direct influence in terms of who you are as a person. And then many career choices are also influenced by some of these cultural expectations you get. For instance, parents guiding children towards respected professions like being a teacher, being a lawyer, being a doctor, and that's it, right? And when you grow up, you are boxed into this um, container where they always tell you, if you're not a doctor, if you're not a teacher, um, you've not seen anything, right? These are the only careers that are there, right? But we have outgrown this paradigm where we only see a doctor or a teacher as the only profession that are there, right? But that's how our parents and the culture that we have shaped us, right? That you must end up being in that profession. I've known people growing up um, whose dreams have been shattered by family and culture because it felt as though they were not pursuing the right path. For instance, somebody who wanted to do music and dance, right? And you could really tell that this guy was good with the dance and singing and stuff. But he was constantly put down because he's told that nobody makes money just dancing, right? Nobody makes money dancing. And you must go to school and be a doctor, be a lawyer, or be a teacher. Either way, these are the only professions they know, you get. But not knowing that this person could actually make a living doing the things that you get, they love the most, right? So some of these cultural expectations, they're okay. And then when we start to grow up and start to experience things, that's why some of us, even after pursuing the careers that our parents wanted us to pursue, we ended up choosing our own path and then pursuing those because we felt like, okay, yeah, I've done that, but it's not what I want, right? It's not what I want. This is what I want. And then you end up changing your career altogether and starting to pursue something different altogether. Sorry about that. So, at a very personal level, please sit down and reflect on what values did you inherit from your upbringing and which ones do I choose to keep as mine? Because as a person, there are a number of things that we've inherited from my parents, from the community we grew up with, from the culture that tells us this is right, this is wrong. And we know, as people who have been exposed, who've gone to school, some of these cultures, some of this upbringing, they give us our starting point, right? But as we grow, you as a person must intentionally define your own path, define what you want to do, define what's important for you, for your personal life and also for your professional life. So that is my challenge for you. So let's look at core values and your personal brand, right? So you probably had a lot of people talking about personal brand, right? When you go to LinkedIn, you find a lot of communication on branding and branding and branding. So when we talk about personal brand, we're talking about the image and reputation that other people have of you, right? That when I think about you, that is the image that I have, right? For instance, when people think about build your best self, they think about me, right? So they have that image of me through build your best self, and that is the brand that I'm trying to create, right? So you as a person, you should be able to create a brand, right? And that brand is what other people should see you as, right? And these are built through your words, through your actions, through consistency, through your values, and that's it. Yeah, it's not just about what you say, right? It's what people experience from you. So when they meet you for the first time, what is the aura? What is the first impression? What do they see in you? What do they feel, right? Because that's the whole thing. We normally say that the words may be long gone, but the experience will last and stay with that person forever. So your image, your brand should be able to have positive experience in people's life. Let people experience you positively. When they think, let them remember all the positive things that comes from you, right? And core values are very, very important in shaping our brand, right? We talked about authenticity, right? Because the values guide your actions, right? And we said your brand is all about actions, consistency, and your value. So when you define your values, they guide your actions and they make your brand genuine and people can easily trust you. And then we talked about consistency, right? And the values keep your brand stable across different situations. It will not happen that at some point you're very honest and at some point you're very dishonest, right? It doesn't happen. So consistency is very key. So when you have your values, it helps you to remain very consistent. And that's how you're able to build a very personal brand that people can relate with. And then differentiation. And your values make you stand out from other people because this is who you are at your core. So it differentiates you from the rest of the people. And then it also helps you build trust. Yeah. When people see you stand by your values, they trust you the more, right? And then they're able to associate themselves with your brand, with you as a person. Remember this, your personal brand is the image and the reputation that other people have of you. It's what they experience from you when they see you, when they get to interact with you and all of those. So that's what your personal brand are. And that's why your core values are very, very important in shaping your personal brand. For instance, if your value is excellence, right? Your brand comes highly performing. If your value is integrity, your brand becomes trustworthy, right? Those are some of the real life examples that you see in other brands, including personal, company, or organizational brands. All right. So some of the strong brand alignments examples are here, and it's part of the things that I was mentioning. If you value integrity, your brand becomes trustworthy and reliable. If you value creativity, your brand becomes innovative, fresh thinker, and all of those. If you value is excellence, your brand becomes high performer, detail oriented, and all of those. And misalignment, you will get a very weak brand. If you don't align your values properly, you'll be able to create a very weak personal brand. And if you claim integrity but cutting corners, it damages trust. That's what I talked about. You can't lie here and then go there and start saying, "Oh, I'm a very honest person," and all that, right? Also, you can't be claiming to be excellent, but you are delivering inconsistently. It weakens your reputation. So, if you claim to be having your value as excellence, you should be able to deliver results consistently across the board, right? So your values are not just private beliefs, they are the building blocks of how the whole world experiences your brand. So it's very important for you to ensure that there is no misalignment between what you say and what you do, because the moment that happens, it will be a disaster. So these are some of examples of how the values are, where it aligns with the brand in action. Some of these you're going to read them in the handouts. Yeah. So I want to talk to you about the risks of misalignment, right? So if you don't align your words, your actions with your values, it will have a serious implication on you as a person, right? You stand at a loss of trust because you are claiming integrity but being dishonest, right? Some people would say, "Oh, but last time I met with this person and he said something else." Another person, "Oh, yeah, he also told me something else." So you have different versions of story, and people will stop believing in you because they feel, "Oh, we can't trust this person," right? And then you will also end up with a very damaged reputation, right? Because you are not doing what you say you are doing, right? So it damages your reputation. And then if you also don't align your values with your actions, you create confusion. You are presenting mixed signals. Others don't know what you stand for. So just be open, pick one, and stand by it, regardless of the situation that you find yourself in, right? And then you will also miss out on opportunities because, like I mentioned earlier, recruiters, employers, or peers may avoid you if they sense inconsistency, right? So you must be able to be consistent across the board. And then the last one is in terms of short-term gains, long-term losses, right? Misalignment in branding may help temporarily, right? But it fails over time. What that means is that for you as a person, if you're looking at gaining in the short term, for instance, you want to lie because you want to get something in the short term, in the long run, it will catch up with you and the losses may be great because then you might have invested a lot of things in there and then you will end up losing all of those. Could be financial investment, could be emotional, and all of those. That's why it's very good to forego short-term gains to be able to reap the long-term benefits, right? And key message for you, when your values and actions don't match, that's what we call misalignment. Your brand becomes fragile and unreliable, and then you stand to suffer all of these consequences that we've talked about. Right. So, in terms of our career path, and which we will look at some of the details, I think, in tomorrow's session, we're talking about how values help you choose careers that match who you are, right? You may feel like, okay, this is not possible, but your values, if you don't define your values properly, you'll have hard time in your careers. That's why even if um, people help you to choose careers, you may not be really comfortable in those careers. That's why it's important for you to choose the careers yourself and not somebody else choosing them for you. For instance, if you're somebody who values service, somebody who values service, we say, is somebody who likes to give back to the rest, right? And this person will work so well in NGO setting, in social work, in healthcare, in education service, because they feel good when they're helping other people. Now you get that, right? And for somebody who values innovation, where you're constantly trying to find new ways of doing things, you will choose careers in entrepreneurship, in research, in tech, in design, and all that, because these careers give you the opportunity to always innovate, to come up with new things and all that. And the list is endless, right? So it's very important for you to understand your own core values and also ensure that these are values that your aligns with your career, because I know most of us have already chosen a career path, but you have to go back to sit and reflect, are my values in line with the path that I've chosen as my career, right? And then your core values also shape your work ethic, right? And the values influence how you show up at your work, right? We talked about integrity and where you're able to build trust with your employers, with your colleagues, with your clients, and all the people that you work with. And then in terms of accountability, you also take ownership of the results. So in the workplace, whether you have a good result or bad result, poor performance or good performance, you take ownership of that result, right? And you are able to demonstrate some level of accountability because, hey, that is what you value. That you're not going to be pinpointing, oh, I didn't do because it was so and so, and it's because of so and so that this happened. No, you're not going to be playing the blame game, but rather take accountability for your action. And then talk about excellence, where you consistently deliver high quality work, right? So those are some of the things you should keep in mind as you pick your career, because um, these are values that we said they define who you are, and they remain very stable over time. So you don't want to pick things that go against each other, because then you either your values suffer or your career suffers, right? And either one of them suffering is a bad thing. That's a misalignment, and it will cost you a great deal if you're not able to do that. So, most organizations define their core values. For instance, where I work, our core values are respect, accountability, integrity, teamwork, and all of those. Those are some of the core values, right? And so, as an employee, when you align with these core values, you are able to work better in some of this culture. That's why we talked about when you are analyzing uh, your advert, and when you're thinking about researching about the employer, you also look at the core values, right? You look at what are the core values, and do these core values align with your own core values as a person, right? If you see that they don't align, you will have a hard time fitting in that company or organization, because your values don't align, right? So it's very important for you to ensure that your values align very well with those of the organization. That's why you have to first do your own research to get to understand the expectations of the employer in terms of the core values, and then also you as a person, what your core values are. That way, you become more of a role models within your organization for your peers and all that. And then, in terms of the long term career success, so careers that are built on values are more fulfilling, more stable, and more impactful. You get, and without value alignment, even a good job feels empty or draining. So you should be able to do things you love, right? And one of my core values is service, and I love to help people a lot, and I'm able to um, provide support even when I don't demand for payment in return, right? And that was the foundation of what you're experiencing at Build Up Yourself. None of the people that work here are paid anything, right? But it's all about getting to understand that this is something that you must give back, right? To the people that need it, because everybody needs some sort of this reassurance, a reminder, right, that this is important. And you can do that better if you have an organized system where you can be able to provide that kind of service, right? So you can build a long-term career success if it aligns perfectly well with your value. But if it doesn't align, trust me, you will be changing careers, and then before you know it, you've hit 45 and then you're still looking for a perfect job. So it's very important for you to ensure that your values align, right? Aligns with the career path that you are choosing. So we said that your values act like a compass. They guide you towards careers when you where you can thrive, when you can give it your all, right? And also give it the strength that you need to be able to grow in that particular career. All right. Um, so when you are writing your right, so in recruitment, I did mention roughly before now that beyond the skills, uh, employers or recruiters also look at the value factor, right? The recruiters also want to look at who you are as much as what you can do, right? We said that when it comes to recruitment, so many people pay attention to what you can do, right? Can you get the work done, right? You get. But now the paradigm is shifting. People want to get to know as much as you can do the work, right? Who are you? Can you work within this team? Can other people work with you? You get. So your skills get you noticed because the first thing is, can this person do the work? Right? Yes. But the values determine if you are the right fit, because at the end of the they want somebody who can fit in the team, who can fit in the organization, who can fit in the culture of the organization, right? So many of the hiring decisions fail not because of the lack of skills, right? But because of poor value alignment, right? Now, as you, as the candidate, as a job seeker, you must know how to communicate your values through your documents. That's where we look at the CV and the application. Know how to communicate your values in your document, because what will set you apart is now your values, right? I mentioned that in a typical day, you will review over 100 applications for the same role, right? And if you need a bachelor's degree, you will get 50 people who all have bachelor's degree. So what else will you be looking at? You get, that's the question. So if I have 50 people who have bachelor's degree, they all have 3 years of experience, just like the way I want it. So, what else should I be looking at? I need one person to take up the position. Can I employ 50 people? No, right? So, I go further to examine all those other factors, including the values, right? Are your values being communicated in your documents, right? So that is the importance of you putting your values in your document. And there are a number of ways values can be screened, right? And you will see in some interviews where there are questions on integrity, questions on teamwork, questions on accountability, you get questions on growth, questions on service orientation, a number of questions, right? And those are intended to screen you out, right? So those are some of the things that you need to pay attention to when you're writing your documents, because the moment the skills are the moment the minimum requirements are met in terms of the experience and qualification, the next thing are those other factors that they will consider to filter you out. And you don't want to be filtered out because you've not communicated your value in your documents. Right. So we did say that they test the values because they want to see how you're fitting in the organization, and they also want people that they can trust, that they can rely on, employees who are not pushed around to get things done. They also want to see that you're somebody who can take ownership of your job, not that when you come in, we must tell you, okay, now do this, okay, now do that. Yeah, less supervision. You're somebody who is a self-starter and can be able to do things, right? And then long-term potential, somebody who is able to adapt better, to be able to grow within the same organization and stay longer, because recruitment is very costly and time consuming, right? So they don't want to keep um, investing and investing and investing. They want people who are able to